The Epic of Gilgamesh, the story of the flood. Last week we covered the story of Lilith and the historic and biblical origins of Lilith and how the biblical Lilith differs from the story of Lilith. We also covered the Babylonian Lilatu, which shared the same characteristics as the Lilith in the Bible and Lilith as the individual. When researching Lilith, we also found an interesting mention of Lilith, but not in the Bible. We found Lilith in Tablet 12 of the Book of Gilgamesh. This had us curious about the Book of Gilgamesh and what other connections it has with biblical tradition. One such connection is the story of the Great Flood.
Even the gods were terrified at the flood. They fled to the highest heaven, the firmament of An. They crouched against the walls, cowering like curs. Then Ishtar, the sweet-voiced queen of heaven, cried out like a woman in travail, "Alas, the days of old are turned to dust because I commanded evil. Why did I command thus evil in the council of all the gods?"
The Epic of Gilgamesh is an ancient Sumerian story about the mythic king of Uruk. Gilgamesh is often considered the first story ever written, dating back to 2100 BC. The Epic of Gilgamesh is a series of tablets that were combined into the epic in the Akkadian language. The Epic of Gilgamesh follows the Uruk king Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was a heroic king of Uruk. Uruk has long been held as one of the oldest cities in human existence, and the place of one of the first cities. The city of Uruk is considered to be one of the first Sumerian cities built around 5000 BC. According to the Sumerian kings list, Gilgamesh was said to have reigned around 2700 BC. Gilgamesh, as a king, was said to be 2/3 god and 1/3 human. Gilgamesh's father is said to be Lalagbanda, king of Uruk, and his mother was the cow goddess Ninsun. As the king of Uruk, Gilgamesh was arrogant. He was the smartest, the wisest, and the best at everything that he did. Because Gilgamesh was the strongest, he was a tyrant to his people. As a way to control Gilgamesh, the gods created Enkidu, the hairy man, to stop Gilgamesh. However, Enkidu and Gilgamesh became fast friends after Gilgamesh defeated Enkidu in several contests. Enkidu and Gilgamesh went on several adventures, with one of them ending to the death of Enkidu. With the death of Enkidu, Gilgamesh began to question his own mortality and began to search for a way to achieve immortality. Gilgamesh's search for immortality led him to the topic of this video, the Great Flood. In his pursuit to find immortality, Gilgamesh uncovers Utnapishtim, the mythical king of Shuruppak. This differs from the Shuruppak account of the flood, who have the mythical king as Zarathustra as the actual person associated with the flood, but in the Epic of Gilgamesh, he finds Utnapishtim, which may be Zarathustra. Utnapishtim recounts the great shame of the Sumerian gods to Gilgamesh. Utnapishtim begins his account with the ancient city of Shuruppak, who tells Gilgamesh that the city was ancient before the time of the Great Flood, which was ancient and forgotten history by the time of Gilgamesh.
Enlil said, "The uproar of mankind is intolerable, and sleep is no longer possible by reason of the babel." So the gods agreed to exterminate mankind. Enlil did this, but Ea, because of his oath, warned me in a dream. Read house, wall, O wall, hearken, read house, wall reflect. O man of Shuruppak, son of Ubaratutu, tear down your house and build a boat. Abandon possessions and look for life. Despise worldly goods and save your soul alive. Tear down your house, I say, and build a boat. These are the measurements of the barque, as you shall build her. Let hex beam equal her length. Let her deck be roofed, like the vault that covers the abyss. Then take up into the boat the seed of all living creatures.
Who is the Sumerian great god Enki, warned Utnapishtim of the coming destruction and selfishness of the gods, and told Utnapishtim to build a boat to save his family from the coming destruction. Utnapishtim built a grand boat that was 7 decks tall and completed the boat in 7 days. When the boat was ready, Utnapishtim gathered as many animals, seeds, craftsmen, and family members as he could gather, and placed them in his great boat to await the coming storm.
With the first light of dawn, a black cloud came from the horizon. It thundered within, where Adad, lord of the storm, was riding. In front over hill and plain Shalet and Hamish, heralds of the storm, led on. Then the gods of the abyss rose up. Nergal pulled out the dams of the nether waters. Ninurta the warlord threw down the dikes, and the 7 judges of hell, the Anunnaki, raised their torches, lighting the land with their livid flame. A stupor of despair went up to heaven when the god of the storm turned daylight to darkness, when he smashed the land like a cup. Even the gods were terrified at the flood. They fled to the highest heaven, the firmament of An. They crouched against the walls, cowering like curs. Then Ishtar, the sweet-voiced queen of heaven, cried out like a woman in travail. Alas, the days of old are turned to dust, because I commanded evil. Why did I command thus evil in the council of all the gods? I commanded wars to destroy the people, but are they not my people? For I brought them forth. Now, like the spawn of fish, they float in the ocean. The great gods of heaven and of hell wept. They covered their mouths.
The flood waters lasted for 6 days, and on the 7th day the rain stopped. The great boat got stuck on the mountain of Nisur. Utnapishtim first released a dove to see if there was dry land, but nothing came about. He then sent a raven which did not return, and signaled that the waters had went down. Leaving the grand boat, the gods swarmed Utnapishtim to the wrath of Enlil. But looking at Utnapishtim, Enlil gave Utnapishtim and his wife immortality. The flood story in the Epic of Gilgamesh has some similarities to the biblical flood story, but at the same time, several significant differences. The flood story in Gilgamesh is one of many flood stories from around the world, each with a unique take on the Great Flood that destroyed civilization as they knew it. The fact that so many unique peoples have flood stories gives a degree of credibility that perhaps a large flood happened in our distant past. And stories like the Epic of Gilgamesh and the account of Noah in the Bible are but 2 stories of a great flood in our distant past. Have you heard about the Epic of Gilgamesh? How similar is the flood story of Gilgamesh compared to the Bible? Was there a great flood in our distant past? Do you know of any other flood stories throughout history? Let us know in the comment section below, and for more Supernatural History TV, like and subscribe.